Welcome to the Tetra Key Business Revolutionary Podcast. My name is Rob Yates, Tetra Key CEO, co-founder, and serial entrepreneur. In these podcasts, we're going to be bringing to you true business revolutionaries. That's people who've done it differently, done it their way, had success, achieved more than the rest, and are willing to share with you exactly how they went about doing it. As well as that, Mark Hopkins, my co-founder, and I will be bringing you podcasts where we give you information about what it is we're doing to grow a business from one country across 5 continents in just 4 years. In this episode, we bring to you Janice Wagner. Janice is the co-founder of Edge Executive Search, a cutting-edge recruitment firm based in South Africa. Janice left a seemingly successful career in PricewaterhouseCoopers and took the large step into entrepreneurship. In 7 years, she's grown her business to the point where she's been recognised as Regional Businesswoman of the Year, and has also become a serial entrepreneur with now 4 businesses underneath her belt. In addition to all of this, Janice is a CrossFit addict and a lovely person who truly believes in growing her staff to get the very most out of her business, something which she does in a truly unique way. This podcast is brought to you by the Tetra Key Business Revolutionary Club, our free-to-join, no catches, no commitment, no credit card membership program that brings to you twice a month loads of free content, interviews, early releases of podcasts, strategies, actionable content that you can put into place for yourself, your business, or possibly your team to ensure that when your future arrives, it's one that you've designed and that you are truly happy with. Now, without further ado, let's step forwards into this session's amazing podcast. So, Janice, welcome to the podcast. Tell me, Edge Executive, where are we? What do you do? What's it all about?
Okay, so we've been going now 7 years. We do executive search placements, but across the board. So my thought process first was just to do executive search. We now do everything, including something I call Higher Grad. We just expanded. We just started another business called Edge Enabled, which does disabled candidates.
Oh, wow.
And we help disabled candidates find jobs. It's even difficult for them to get to interviews, so we even get them brought there, they get brought home. So yeah, just expanding.
Cool. And what's that expansion look like?
Yeah, it's tough. We're a group of 3 companies now. We're about to move offices, which we've been situated in the first offices for the last 6 years. I thought it was going to be an easy process, not so easy. I don't think I don't like change, so this is going to be very interesting. Got our eyes on another business, so probably going to add another business to the group before the end of the year.
That is fantastic. And out of the original offices.
Yes.
That's like cutting the umbilical cord, isn't it?
So much.
You know, on the first day afterwards, you're going to drive here, but when you move offices as opposed to going to the new offices.
I know. It's going to be so tough because I'm so used to it, and you set up a routine. Like you've got what do you do at 4 o'clock in the morning? What do you do at 6 just so you can get to the office on time?
And so why recruitment?
Okay, I mean, sure. People ask me that because, I think you know that I come from an accounting background. I never planned on being a recruiter. I thought I didn't know how to do sales and I wanted a break. And I had 2 job offers, and this one company was an executive search business. And I thought, why the hell not? Let me have a little break there for a year. Here we are 10 years down the line now.
That's amazing. So many people and business owners identify sales as their limiting factor. Like
definitely.
They don't feel like able to do sales. It's a block for them. What have you learned about yourself and about sales since you started being an entrepreneur?
I think sales is the hardest, and people, but sales is the hardest part of a business. I came from a well-known brand. The brand sold itself. I'd literally never had to sell anything in my life. I'd identified myself with that brand, and now I must pick up the phone and say, hey, do you want to have a cup of coffee with me? No one wanted to have coffee. So, I mean, I've had to build very strong relationships along the way. And what I found with sales is people want you to care. They don't just want you to make a sale. So I actually built relationships and would try to find out about their families, their kids. I remember the kids' birthdays, because I mean that's what it's about in the end of the day. It's all relationships.
And how were those first days? Because I remember you told me once you started in a coffee shop. Or
Yeah. So no, the first days were really bad. So I mean, obviously there's a long story to this, but I mean, I was literally bankrupt. My father said, you have a year, so why don't you give yourself a year? If it works, otherwise you need to go be an accountant again. I was like, hell no, I don't want to be an accountant. So I first started the business in the loft with my cat, just the two of us. I would get up every day and put a suit on because I had to get into some sort of routine. You can't really start a business and be in your pajamas. And then obviously I didn't have place to interview candidates. So I started interviewing at the Santa News Cafe, and they saw me there every day. And they were so kind, and that's where the business started. I literally sat there every single day interviewing candidates, and they would look after me. And they still do to this day, 7 years later.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that's the original home for the business.
The business started in the Santa News Cafe.
Wow. We've all got a backstory. Tetra Key started over a case of beer.
You see?
Yeah, that was it.
It's one thing in common, yeah, alcohol.
That's superb. That's superb. And so, just dotting back to that sales thing again, when people say to you, I struggle with sales, what's that, other than relationships, what's the other thing that people need to be playing with?
Honesty. I think sales used to be like you wouldn't tell the truth. Me, it's about honesty. Can I do it? Can't I do it? I tell the truth, even if you don't like the truth, and I think that's what's built the business I have. I'm not going to tell you a lie. And humble. Because you know what happens when you start becoming successful, however you gauge that, you got to stay humble. People want to do business. First of all, people want to do business with a person. You're the brand, not Edge. It's you. So, and stay humble.
And so how do you go about making that transition from you being the business to Edge being the business?
Oh, so hard. Like any entrepreneur knows. You build it on yourself because it is your business, and then you start expanding and you hire staff, and you think no one can do what you do. Absolutely no one. I mean, that was so hard for me to let go and start trusting people. And I mean, the third business we started with is with somebody that worked for me, and I can honestly tell you, Bandile is 100 times better than I was. And it was like such a thing, like, okay, somebody can do it better than me. I tell him daily. I mean, he's so good. So yeah, but really, it's very difficult to think somebody else can do it.
It's amazing. So what's the word of wisdom for people?
Take baby steps. But you know what happens. Your business grows, and this is how my thought process. I was like, I can give my clients, 10 minutes a day. Where if I start handing them over to other people, they can give them, a day a week, something like that I won't have the time for. So I'm there still to touch base, but they can actually service them better than I could.
So that goes back to that word care, which you mentioned before,
Yes.
is giving the customers the care that they deserve.
Exactly.
And that's time-based.
100%.
And so I suppose for a lot of entrepreneurs, you're lucky because you come from a financial background.
Yes.
But a lot of entrepreneurs start their business with the mindset it's just going to be them, and they charge to earn themselves, like a self-employed type living. And then when they look to scale, suddenly they have to go and whack their prices up.
Yes.
So is that something you took into account from the start? Or?
So no, I'm a little bit different, and I mean I sing the same praise all the time. A story. Cash flow's king. So obviously our business is kind of regulated on what you can charge. So that was fine. But I kept the overheads as low as I could. We've been in these offices, which is in Braamfontein now, for 6 years. If you ask my staff what's my motto, they'll tell you I'm cheap and cheerful. I mean, up until 4 years ago, all the stationery came from China Mall. So it's all about keeping your expenses low. I didn't even start the business with a website. Websites cost money. I had business cards, and I started it obviously in the Santon News Cafe, and then the first thing you do when you want to expand, well, this is what I believe, is work out how much money you need to run your business for 1 year. And as you increase your staff, you need to increase that money. And I put that money away in a call account, because I never want to be in a situation there's a problem in the economy, I can't make the sales, and I have to retrench my staff. So I can sleep well at night knowing we always have enough money to survive another year.
Phenomenal. And in some countries in the world, you're negligent if you run a bankruptcy level. That's or beneath zero.
But I mean, the amount of entrepreneurs I've met, they don't think that way, and you've got to put the money away.
And so, with Edge, what's your goal? What's your ambition? Where's it going to grow to?
Well, DAV started somewhere, so don't they need some competition?
Okay. So multinational?
That's it.
Perfect.
There's always been one aim that I've had, and I haven't changed my mind on that. So I always used to say to my staff, and that's when we were like tiny, there's a billboard that we always used to drive past on the M1, and I was like, one day we'll be on that billboard. And they've lived by that, so they always remind me about the billboard. But I also think I won't be a proper entrepreneur if I don't start spinning out some of my staff into their own businesses. And that's the one business we've just done now, and that's my aim.
That's cool. So it's care and growth for the staff as much as it is for the clients.
100%. You can't how can you run a business without your staff? Your staff are your cornerstone. So if you want them to look after your clients properly, you need to look after them.
And that's very interesting, because most people worry in their business that they have to find linear progression for their staff. Getting promoted. And what you're looking at is sort of a lateral progression.
Yes.
Is a progression out if they want it with your support.
Yes.
Jeepers, that's very unique,
I don't know, it's working for us. I love it. I love to see their growth. I mean, my staff, almost all of them have been with me already 5 years. So, I must help them grow.
Perfect. And tell me, in those moments when you're not struggling, but you're thinking, what should I do next? Do you have role models?
My dad. I don't know how many people may say that, eh?
One of I have to be honest, so with my little girl, Caitlin, it is one of my ambitions that when she gets interviewed for a podcast at some point in time or whatever else, and they say role model, that she says my dad. I mean, that is like every dad's ambition. So why your dad, other than he's your dad? So,
I mean, my dad taught us how to treat people and everything, but I'll take a step back. My father was a CA. I was not the cleverest. A maths teacher told me I'd never be a CA, so I decided that's what I was going to be then, just like my dad. And so that's what happened. And my dad had always made himself a promise that he was going to be the FD of a company by 40, and he had these life goals. And he was just after 40 when he decided to become an entrepreneur. And he built a phenomenal business, and I always wanted to do the exact same thing. And strangely enough, all of his kids are entrepreneurs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because you said to me a little while ago, had there not been a tipping point, you would still be employed.
I would have been employed.
Why is that?
Why would I be employed?
Yeah, why would if there hadn't been that tipping point, and we'll come back to that in a minute, why would you still have allowed yourself to be employed?
Because it's easier. And often you think, I can't do it. So even when I first started the business, I was like, I need people, I need partners, because you think, how could I possibly do it by myself? It's, how do you start a business? So that's really the thought process. Much easier to work for someone.
Because it creates like a slothful sort of mindset. You don't have to progress yourself, learn, push yourself, as long as you hit your targets and keep your head down.
Exactly. And look, I mean, you'll know, it is hard to start a business. I thought I knew everything. CA, like I can tell you what's wrong with your bank recon.
Yeah.
But let me I didn't even know how to do a bank recon. I mean, I'd worked in PWC tax. I'd never done a VAT return. I'd never done a tax return ever. I didn't know when it was due. The biggest learning curves ever. A very humbling process.
So do you now have your own accountant?
Yes.
How's that for you?
So much better. I outsourced straight away.
That's amazing. I think that's the best thing ever. A good accountant's worth their weight in gold.
Oh yes, yeah.
So in the past 7 years, I'm going to guess you've run up and down lots of different pathways trying
Sure.
to find things. What's been the I'm going to say the pathway that you've gone up,
Yes.
that you've got to the end and gone, oh crap, and then gone all the way back again. So I won't say it's a mistake, but it's like as you grow a business, it's like an experiment, isn't it?
Yes.
You've got to keep adding bits into it.
I mean, you have to reinvent yourself, not yearly, but every couple of months. You've got to look at the economy, you've got to change things. I suppose when you first start the business, you take on all clients. So it's not, you look back later and you think, oh, I invested so much in that client. But when you first start, you're like, I need that money to come in, I need that first client. And later on, you're like, is it the right client for me? So I think that's been one of the errors that I've made. I mean, I once won a piece of work, but clearly didn't ask the right questions. Got to Cape Town, to which the client told me it was all contractors and the payroll was R1 million, and I needed to pay their salary. Yes, there was a lot of dancing going on to find that R1 million.
That's a couple of credit cards that have been hurt. So
yeah, no, it wasn't. I couldn't have nothing on my credit card. I went just about everyone I knew for a favor.
Awesome. And how do you manage that feeling inside of yourself about, am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? Because every experiment you make when you reinvent yourself, it's like an accurate coin toss. You're still not too sure whether it's going to be heads or tails.
You never know.
How do you manage that energy inside of yourself?
Okay, so I talk to myself. Okay, so I told you when I first started the business, I literally had nothing. Okay, I had no money. So once you've been there, I think there's a lack of fear. So you like, I'm going to try it, and what's worse that can happen? I have to restart again. And that's really my thought process always. If I really strongly believe in something and I want to try it, I'll give it my all, and if it fails, I put it to learning.
And so what's that self-talk like?
Do you really want to do this? Is it a good idea? Are you being emotional?
And that's interesting because emotion plays a positive and a negative part in business.
100%.
So how do you identify what's useful and what's not?
I go back to accounting principles. So is it going to make money? What's the outflow? What's going to be my return on investment? How long could it take? Could it impact my cash flow? So that's the type of thing that goes through my thought process all the time. Return on investment is, ask my staff, they know ROI.
Good. And so, but do you ever engage with the business part of you which says, actually that would make me happy and I'd really enjoy doing that?
I do enjoy doing what I do. To make this decision was a life decision to do something that I wanted to do. So everything I do is about, if I'm not going to enjoy it, I can be an accountant.
And some people love being an accountant,
Yes.
which is worth just saying before we go and knock them all to one side. Sorry, Kenneth, my accountant, if you're listening, you're awesome.
So you've got to be passionate about what you do. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, I mean, you've got to get up every single day and really want to do what you want to do. Because if you work in corporate, I thought I really worked hard. But as an entrepreneur, you work even double hard. And everyone thinks there's this thing, I love this word, flexibility. There's no such thing. Flexibility is if I get 4 hours sleep or 6.
Yep. It's a different sort of work though, isn't it? I mean, in corporate, you often get measured by the quantity of hours that you're present for.
Yes.
As an entrepreneur, being present is just not good enough.
No. And you've got to be, like I said, reinventing. Where's the holes? Where's the gap? You can't just stay in one place forever.
So I often use the analogy with clients. You have to be the lumberjack who's chopping the trees down. But you've also got to go jump in a helicopter every day and go and have a look at the whole of the forest and work out, are you going in the right direction, where next makes sense, etc. So it's almost like you have to have a macro and a micro view at exactly the same time.
100%. And sometimes you may have started a business, and three businesses down, I still have to reevaluate. Is the first business we did, is it still making money? Is it still worth it? Just because I'm emotionally attached to it, I still need to make the right decisions.
It's now the point to sell.
Yes, that's exactly the story.
So how do you manage that? What habits do you put in place, or things do you put in place for yourself to, because it's very easy to get stuck in the grind of the day to day, and not get the opportunity to have that macro view?
It's so hard. I'm still learning that. I'm going to be dead honest, because when you start a business, you are so hands-on, and I find it very difficult to pull myself away, be less hands-on, and be more strategic. And I actually had this discussion with my father last night, and I said, you get to a point where you wonder if you're the right CEO for the business. Is it time that somebody else steps in and they make the strategic decisions for the business on how to take the business to the next level? And it may not be you.
How does that feel?
It's very hard. But I do think that's probably the next step.
Have you read Howard Schultz's book,
No.
the founder of Starbucks? Pour your heart into it.
Yes.
So he's gone through the process of being the guy who set up Starbucks and
Yes.
scaled it. I mean, and we scaled it successfully. Then had to employ a CEO. Then had to step away. Then became president. Then had to step away, and is now back to be CEO again.
Really?
Yeah, and I often wonder how you do that cutting piece.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the hardest thing, because this is your baby. I mean, you've literally, and you're doing the exact same thing. You put all your life into it. You put certain parts of your personal life on hold, or you scale your personal life down to get this business off the ground. So difficult to go, it's not me anymore.
Wow. I haven't quite got there with my business yet, so we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. It's not quite there yet. The best thing I've found is by expanding overseas. We've got a new UK head of business.
Huge.
He's an ex-EY lawyer.
Yes.
And he's in the UK, and I'm in Joburg. I have no choice but to trust him to be head of business for the UK, because I can't be there on a weekly, daily basis. And actually, it's terrifying.
That's what I was going to say. What's your feelings?
Terrifying. But it's refreshing at the same time, because I actually get to do what I'm good at, which is coaching.
Yes.
I started as a coach, and actually I get to coach him. And yes, I've got a financial stake in what his execution of that coaching.
Yes.
But that makes my job as a coach even more important, to have to drive him to the point of accurate execution. So it's an interesting juggling act.
Definitely. Very interesting.
So in fact, I've actually been thinking about a new niche for the business, which is about helping people expand outside of their home city or outside of their home country.
I think it's a great idea. I could be your first client.
Done. Sold. You could be the test case.
Yes.
I need a success story that's not me, because I can tell you I'm wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, we have to expand out next. But what you're saying is exactly my thought process. So you said you're a great coach. You're a successful coach. But it doesn't mean that you are maybe the CEO of the business. You have to look at what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and I know actually admin's not my strength, and I don't like the mundane, and that's why the thought process of maybe it's not me.
And so you're already on that path, though. You said you're on your first step into rest of Africa.
Yes.
What's going on there?
So we've got some clients. Obviously, a lot of our clients are expanding into Africa, and now starting our first recruitment in Africa. We've got a client that's asked us to set up offices for them in Singapore and Hong Kong.
Wow.
So so it's exciting times.
That's phenomenal. And then the rest of China.
Yeah, well, let's hope.
Jeepers. I met somebody the other day who is a recruiter and an agent for airline pilots in China.
Yes,
And
it's huge
they
there.
cannot find enough pilots.
They'll take
So
it from all over the
If
world.
anyone's listening to this who's a pilot, right, look into China.
It's so true.
Because she said she could easily recruit 200 pilots a month at this point in time, and still have more than enough work to keep them busy.
Yes.
And they're earning huge amounts of money.
Huge. It's the truth. I was actually in China 2 Decembers ago, and it is the truth.
Cool. So offices in Singapore.
Oh, let's hope.
Have you been?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a stunning place.
Yeah, I would have fun there.
You would have a lot of fun there. So with all this going on, a fourth business,
Yes.
Asia,
Yes.
Africa,
Yes.
new offices in Joburg,
Yes.
potentially a new CEO.
Yes.
How do you stay sane? What habits do you put in place for yourself, or even not a habit, that's a glamorous word, but things to keep your sanity levels normal?
Cool.
Well, not normal, but...
Because no one's ever used that word in terms of me, but I love sport, obsessed with sport. So I'm a total A personality, so I'm A personality in my sport. But at the same time, you need to I've got support systems. I've got a great business partner. You laugh, I've got a great accountant. My staff have worked with me for so long, they know how to pick up the pieces. Yeah. I mean, for me, everything just works.
And does any of that fit into a set habit or pattern or ritual, or
Yes.
like you do the same thing every day?
Every day.
Go on, tell me about that. How
Okay.
does it work?
The alarm goes off at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Feed the cat.
Of course.
He's still alive.
Yep.
So, and then I hit the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm obviously a CrossFitter.
We met, by the way, everybody, at CrossFit. I think we were both trying to climb a rope at the same time for possibly the first time since we were at school, and we were just giggling at the bottom of the rope.
Yeah, no, I never got up that rope. So, yeah, I mean, then I will start my first meetings at 7:30 or 8 in the morning. And then I start them out in 4 ways and then head towards this way to avoid the traffic. I'm here till about 5, play sport again, eat, read mails, and the same process every day.
And that's it. And at the weekends?
You know, I like to party a little. I've got to let off some steam. So more sport, obviously, and definitely wine.
Wine?
There's definitely wine.
Excellent. And is that the creative part of the week, or just the blowing off steam?
Yeah, that's just the blowing off steam.
Why CrossFit?
I mean, you want the real story, yeah?
Well, I know part of where that came from. But there's plenty of other things that you could do in terms of sport.
Yes.
CrossFit is a pretty, dare I say it, balls to the wall hour of your life every day.
It's measurable.
Measurable.
Yes, I'm an accountant. It's measurable. So when you deadlift 40 Ks and then you can lift 50 Ks and then you go to 100, you can see your progression. So, you know, running has never interested me. I've always liked the extreme sports, so rugby, boxing, that's me. I can't dance. My father will tell you that never happened. So, yeah, that's why CrossFit. It's extreme and it's measurable. I mean, you know the truth. I mean, obviously there was a man involved.
Of course. There's got to be something to hook you in.
Obviously there was a man.
Yeah. And but what I find very interesting is a lot of people who are taking steps forwards in their business. So they're not slothful with it. They haven't just grown it to a level of comfort and then, I call it rape and pillage. They just take everything out. And a lot of people have a habit of starting their day with measurable activities. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
So CrossFit, running is another very, and cycling, two other very popular in terms of success sports, because if you run the same path every day, you can measure your time.
Yes.
And it's interesting that it sets people off on I've measured, I've improved already today.
It's
and so
true,
if you start
it's
off
true.
with a gain in the morning, it's easier to make other gains as the day goes on.
And also, isn't it the endorphin rush?
Mm-hmm.
And also, that's your hour for the day. So no one's asking you for anything. So and you can just be you.
The other thing I find with CrossFit is that often I feel after a CrossFit training session that the day can't get any worse.
That is so true.
the day can't get any worse. I already feel slightly broken.
Yes.
And so it can only get better after that, really.
That's exactly true. Are you still CrossFitting?
I'm not at the moment. Since becoming a dad,
Okay.
the idea of getting into the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is when we used to train together,
Yes.
and having only slept for sometimes 2 or 3 hours,
Sure.
my exercise has to happen at a different time of day, or often not at all, because my business and clients often require me to be awake for them. And it's getting better as she gets older, so I'm actually just looking at getting back into CrossFit.
Because I'm just going to say on the side here, this sounds like excuses, and we're not getting any younger, and make a plan.
It's true. It's true. So I've been to keep weight off, because when you stop doing exercise and then you sit, I suppose you spend a lot of your daytime
Sitting.
You can put a lot of weight on very, very quickly. And so I've been doing a lot of intermittent fasting, just to. I often eat the same amount of calories, but just to keep that fat burning process going and the metabolism higher.
Yes.
But you are right, it is an excuse, and I do need to sort myself out. Damn it! I've got my own piece of coaching advice. Cool. So, when you were younger, what moments were there that sort of you think that triggered you to having this desire to grow and improve? Because you've not been, even if you had stayed employed, you haven't been slothful. I mean, you were looking towards being a PwC partner.
Yes.
You're now taking a business or businesses and growing them arguably faster and more sustainably than most people manage. What is it from when you were a kid that was like?
How did you know that? That's so strange. Okay, so I actually had.
For a job.
Okay, because I actually had a learning disability.
Okay.
So so when I was in grade 2, I was very young. So they diagnosed me with a learning disability, and my parents decided they'd wanted me to go to one of the learning disability schools, and my parents decided no, they're going to help me through it. And I actually had school in the foyer, so I didn't sit with what was deemed normal children. So there's still stuff I can't do to this day, like the alphabet still scares me. If my mother hears this, she'll be laughing.
What's the disability, if you don't mind me asking?
I just couldn't catch on to things. So I just really struggled with learning, like couldn't remember the alphabet. To this day, still can't cursive. So there's a lot of stuff from there, and it was I wanted to succeed. I wanted to be with the normal children. I wanted to be out of the foyer, and I wanted to be with them. And that's how my whole life has been. It's just been about, it doesn't matter what it is, and nothing comes easy to me. So, you know, like a driver's license is 3 or 4 times. That hasn't improved. My business partner will tell you I still can't drive. But no, I've got it now. So nothing's ever come easy. So, you know, even being an accountant, it really was hard to study it because I wasn't really interested in it. And, you know, the thing that did interest me was tax. And then I actually did I'm an HDIP tax. That I did enjoy. But, yeah, it's just the need to succeed, to prove to myself over and over again I can do it.
That's very interesting. So is it like a degree of deprivation?
No, I wouldn't say deprivation. It's just I say to myself, whatever it is, I can do it. It won't come as quickly. And I think that's also even with the CrossFit. Like, I can't, right now, cannot do pull-ups, kipping. I can only do strict. And I'm like, it's okay, you'll get there. 1 or 2 more years, we'll be there.
So maybe that childhood thing taught you the patience that you need to actually go and take a business forwards.
And I think also, you know, when you, with hindsight, you always think like, wow, it actually taught me a lot because I like to employ grads, and grads don't always know how to do the job. And obviously, it's taught me patience, even though I've got an A personality, to go over the process over and over again until we get it right.
Wow. So it's interesting that patience is another key factor.
Yes.
And perseverance, those two things linked together are 2 key factors. I don't know if you've read Brendan Bouchard's latest book. You don't know how much reading you do, but listen to it, if nothing else. He talks about 6 habits that successful people all have. And regardless of how you measure success, because I believe the Dalai Lama is immensely successful, just as is, I don't know, Bill Gates.
Yes.
I mean, opposing ends maybe of a spectrum, but nevertheless immensely successful. And patience and perseverance, along with courage, are several of the things that he mentions in that book. And what I find often is that with entrepreneurs is they get their first big deal.
Yes.
They go, yes, I've made it. And then they spend all the money and suddenly realise they haven't really made it.
It's even another side to that, because we even did that at one point, was won a big deal. It was keeping us nicely going. You stop doing business development because, hey, I'm paying my bills. So there's another side to that as well.
Cool. So there's going to be a whole load of people out there listening to this who are currently sitting where you were sat once, which is they're employed.
Yes.
And they've got this idea. You know the people I'm talking about because I'd imagine you've met them and we both know lots of them. They've got this idea of a problem they could solve for the world.
Yes.
And they're sat there employed going, should I do it or should I not? What if? What do you think? What advice could you give them?
Okay, so I say to everyone, you need to put money away. Because one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you felt this, you think about money all the time. Like, when is money going to come? Money's only going out. Am I going to be successful? Is money going to hit the bank? So if you've put money in, I say you need at least money for a year. Because for me it took 6 months for any deal to come off. So deals aren't going to come off if you're worrying about how you're paying your bills. And I wasn't in that situation, okay, but I will tell everyone, put yourself in that situation, that you've got enough money to pay the school fees. It's much harder if you've got family and kids to be an entrepreneur. And then gauge if it's the right time in your life, because there isn't going to be flexibility. This is a commitment, especially for the first year, to get the business off the ground. And is it something you really want to do? I don't believe everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur.
No.
I really don't.
I always think one of the markers is you have to be able to learn in a very different way.
Yes.
So it's not about learning from a book. I mean, book-based learning for entrepreneurs never works. The book's already 10 years out of date by the time you read it. But it's that learning of, I've screwed this up, I won't screw it up again.
Yes.
Or I'm willing to try this and see if it works and then adapt it.
100%.
And it's like a type of learning that you can never be, that in our childhood we probably had in the first 5 to 7 years. You learn to walk, you learn to talk. It's a lot of trial and error and pick yourself up, dust yourself off. And then you go to school and you get taught a new form of learning. And we're kind of brainwashed that that's what it's all about.
100%.
What's your biggest piece of learning over the past couple of years?
Keep going, because there's a point. I just remember that first year, but I would want to do that first year again. It was the hardest year, but it's my favorite year of the whole story. There's a point where you think like, I'm actually just not going to make it. I'm not going to make it, and then suddenly something ticks over. So I think it's perseverance. Keep going. But I think also give yourself a timeline. And I remember my father saying that. He said, give yourself a year, and if in a year you can't sustain yourself, then it's not meant to be.
So if you were to redo that first year, what would you do the same and what would you do differently?
I think I'd do it all the same, and it was so hard. It was so hard. I mean, I make jokes with my friends. We're at a point where me and the cat were eating off the same plates because I don't get him separate food. So no, I'll do it again. It's like the most special year. I think also there's that sense of, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Wow, I'm actually going to have a business. Wow, I have a business. You know, it's that sense.
So are you tempted to get that new CEO for Edge, let it go and grow, and you be the shareholder and everything else, and then just go and set up a new business?
I would never be just a shareholder. I think I'd be a recruiter.
Okay.
I would just be a recruiter in the business and mentor the staff and help them start other businesses. But would I want another business? For sure.
Yeah. And when you with your staff, do you partner in the businesses with them?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Yes. They're the majority shareholder, and yeah, but I partner with them.
And then you support them, mentor them, coach them.
Yes.
Keep them not buying the X5 BMW in the first 12 months.
Oh yeah. No, they know 1 year's worth of expenses in the bank.
Is that the deal as you go in with them? That's superb. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And that's something I'm actually going to keep hold of from what I'm doing. Is I've never found anybody yet, or a business yet, that supports their staff out in that way. A lot of people will encourage people to get a new job because they need to grow, go outwards that way. But in terms of partnership and business, that's pretty unique.
No, I love it. Because it's, I don't know, you just see the growth and you see them grow. And you learn during the process as well.
That's fantastic. Sorry, I'll edit this bit out. So if you had a message for the world, only if, but what would it be if you did?
A message? Well, my message for South Africa is the only way we can fight unemployment is through entrepreneurship. So we need to build more entrepreneurs. So buy from entrepreneurs, support entrepreneurs, be an entrepreneur if you're meant to be one.
Cool. So the growth of entrepreneurship, and with that being said, in 50 years' time, I have no idea how old you are, but in 50 years' time,
I'll be dead.
You'll be dead. Okay. I'm trying. Have one glass of wine too many. What do you want people to be saying about you?
That she cared, and yeah, that's it. She was humble and she cared.
And that's it. I think that's admirable. She cared. Wow. Cool. I had I interviewed one of the leading experts globally on artificial intelligence for business.
Yes.
And he said, well, with the developments in medical technology, we'll be having a conversation about my next 50 years.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
He's phenomenal. He's got a chip in his hand that he can wave over things, and like his computer, like he can think thoughts, and his computer does stuff. And
wow.
Very, 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 very cool.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Very cool. So, right, I've got a couple more questions, and then I'll let you get back. So I know your time is precious and your day is valuable. What's the next business venture?
There's a training business I'm looking into. It would be an add-on, and yeah, it's something I'm passionate about.
Which goes back to care and growth.
Yes, probably. And I mean, if you ask me what I really would like, it would probably be something in the sports industry. But I mean, it wouldn't be viable.
When we finish the podcast, I'll tell you about something in a second. But I don't want you to. I'll tell you about something I'm playing with. Okay, last question. If you were asked by a loved one or a friend one piece of advice that they could live by that would serve them well for the rest of their days, what would you say to them?
Make time for the people you love. Because I mean, I'm going through something at the moment, but I realize that in the end of the time, that's the only thing that matters. It's not about how big your car is or anything. It's about the memories that you've created. And yeah, if you lose someone, did you spend enough time with them?
Cool. Janice, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And there you have it. What wonderful advice, insights, and information from the amazing Janice Wagner. Janice, thank you once again. This podcast, as with all of the Business Revolutionary podcasts, are brought to you by the Tetra Key Business Revolution Club, our free offer of free business coaching to you and anyone that you know. No catches, no credit cards, and no commitments. Check out the link in the description below, and please go and connect with Janice on social media, LinkedIn, and via her website, Edge Executive Search. As ever, I hope you have an amazing week going forwards and realise that you truly are a business revolutionary.